have been working my way through the book of parts of Job from the Hebrew text. And basically, we have been working through chapter 28, The Effort to Find Wisdom, a classic chapter, one of the great texts of all literature. And what I'd like to do is read the Hebrew and then do a grammatical, inductive grammatical analysis with commentary. First of all, I would like to begin with basic vocabulary. And so starting at verse 12, I believe we stopped there last time, me'ayin would mean from where. Ezeh means which of two or more things, which. Binah is the knowledge, the understanding, we could translate, the ability to understand. Anosh means man or mankind. Erek means estimate or order. Tehom means deep sea or abyss. Imadi is im plus the suffix with me. Sagur here seems to have the meaning of gold, fine gold. And then nishkal is from shakal, to weigh. Salah is something that is weighed. It's a pu'al here, to be weighed. Ketif is gold. Ophir, again, is another name for gold, fine gold. Shoham is, we're rendering this as onyx. Yakar means that which is precious. Sapphire, another precious stone. Zechukit, yechuchit would be glass. Temurah is something that is exchanged for another. But it can also look at pure gold. Ramot would be corals. Gavish, crystal. Meshek would be drawing up. And peninim would be corals. Patda, the topaz, and ketim, again, gold. And again, I think we'll stop there in the vocabulary. As I've said many times, one of the wonderful tools for vocabulary is the Reader's Hebrew English Lexicon of the Old Testament in 4 volumes. And this has helped me in my vocabulary and looking at words that are more uncommon and unique. So now we pick up where we left off, and I believe we left off last time at verse 12. He's giving the picture of mining, how miners go down into the mine and no one else is there. For example, the wild animals are not there. The falcon's eye is not there. The lion is not there. He is showing that you're going down and pretty much isolated from everything else. But I think the thought is, even there, you cannot find wisdom. So where is wisdom? This is really the question that he's asking. So we'll pick it up in verse 12 then. And it reads, V'hachokmah me'ayin timatzeh. But as for wisdom, where shall it be found? Ve'ezemakom binah. And where is the place of understanding? Notice here, timatzeh is from matzah, to find. Here we have a nifal, imperfect, third feminine singular, going with chokmah. So as to wisdom, from where can it be found? Just a couple comments, or a brief commentary on that verse. While man can discover and bring to light precious stones, can man find the wisdom which was involved in creating the world and is now governing it? It seems that what Job is saying is never. Even with his amazing skills, this task is impossible for him to find. Wisdom is thought of as a person who is distinct from God. We see this, for example, in Proverbs 8. And as I look at the New Testament, that is applied to Christ in John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and defining Jesus as being with the Father from all eternity. And that's a reference to Proverbs 8, verses 23 to 27. The world's order was created, though, and is maintained by the Spirit of wisdom. The only aspect of wisdom which man can understand, though, is more of a practical application. However, insight into God, as to how to live life in loving one's neighbor as oneself, for example, that's built in to the consciousness of humankind. But insight into God's plan for governing the world is locked up in his person. And what I think Job is saying is we'll never be able to understand it in that way. So he asks that question, where is the place of understanding? And then he continues to show how humans cannot understand it. Lo yada anosh erka velo tematzeh be'eretz ha'chayim. Man does not know its price or its exchange of price. Neither is it found in the land of the Chayim, of the living. In other words, it cannot be found in the land of where we as humans live. Notice again here, man does not know. Yada is your cow perfect, third masculine singular from yada, and tematzeh is from matzah, to find. So it is not found in the land of the living. It's locked up in God. Tematzeh, again, is from matzah, to find. It is a nifal, imperfect, third feminine singular from matzah. So it is not found in the land of the living. What Job is saying here, man can set no price on wisdom. He cannot buy or sell it because it does not occur in the realm of the living. Job implies that it is extremely valuable but impossible to find. It cannot be found. He goes on then to define even under the earth or in the sea. So we move on to the next verse, which would be verse 14. Tahom amar lo vihi. The deep says, it is not in me. V'yam amar ein imadi. And the sea says, it is not in me. Just a word here. Amar is your Cal perfect, third masculine singular from Amar. And so what we're seeing here is it cannot be found in the deep under the earth, nor in the sea. And so whichever place you go, it's not able to be found, even in the waters beneath the earth or in the sea, Yam. So again, where do you find wisdom? And then he goes on in verse 15. Lo yutan sagur tachtecha, velo yeshakel kesef mechira. As we read that, it cannot be gotten for gold instead of gold. Neither shall silver be weighed in exchange for it. In other words, gold won't buy it. Often in this life, man thinks that he can get by with money, but this is something that money cannot buy. Gold will not buy it. Notice as we read on, or looking at this grammatically, it cannot be given or gotten instead of gold. Notice utan is from the verb natan. It's a pual imperfect third masculine singular from natan. So sagur here means gold. So it cannot be gotten for fine gold would be a good way to place to understand it here. Actually, the word can mean enclosure, but here it's looking in the context at gold, at fine gold. So it cannot be gotten for fine gold, purified gold. Then he goes on to repeat again in a parallelistic way, velo yishakel kesef mechira. Neither has silver been weighed for its price. Notice here, velo yishakel. Shakal means to weigh something, to be weighed. It is not weighed. Silver basically shall not be weighed for its price. I'm understanding yishakel to be a nifal imperfect third masculine singular from shakal, to weigh. So it cannot be weighed for silver, or silver cannot be weighed in exchange for it. And here we have the idea of silver now for its price. Mechira here means price or higher. So you cannot pay for it with gold or with silver, I believe is the point that Job is making. As we look, just a note here, this is not the usual word for gold. It comes from the Hebrew word meaning to shut up with great care and refers to gold with no impurities. We see an example of this in 1 Kings 6:20. And furthermore, wisdom then cannot, as we've been saying, be purchased with refined gold, nor weighed with silver. That's how important it is. I remember years ago when I was working on my PhD, a businessman came to the class, and I said, "Are you working on a degree?" He said, "Oh, no." He said, "I've finished my business career, and now I want to try to find wisdom. And so I'm coming just to study, to see if I can find wisdom somewhere." And it was interesting. All the gold that he had earned did not give him wisdom. And I thought, well, that parallels what I'm finding here in Job. But at any rate, as we go on, in the next verse, verse 16, it reads, Lo tesule bechetem ophir. That is, it cannot be weighed or valued. Weighed would be a good way to translate this. With the gold of Ophir. And then Beshoam Yakar Besafir, with the onyx, the precious onyx, or the sapphire. Here we have the verb salah, to weigh. We have a puel, imperfect, third feminine singular from salah. It cannot be weighed with the gold of Ophir, Behetef Ophir, and nor with the precious onyx. I'm understanding Shoham here to be onyx, the onyx stone. In other words, it cannot be weighed for gold or with the precious onyx stone. Some want to understand this as beryl or chrysoprasus. Onyx, I think, defines it well, so it cannot be weighed for onyx, precious onyx. Even that, it cannot be valued, with the precious onyx or with sapphire. It's interesting, again, he's repeating what he's been saying here throughout. And by the way, chetem means gold. So the gold of Ophir, and it's in parallel with the onyx, the precious onyx, and or the sapphire. So again, these precious stones will not cut it to find wisdom. The gold of Ophir, notice, is a highly prized gold found in Arabia at that time. The onyx was a gem of high value, which was worn on the priest's breastplate. We see this in Exodus 28:9, for example, and also on the ephod in Exodus 25:7. So wisdom could not be purchased with any of these valuables either. In other words, none of them will purchase wisdom. And so then the writer goes on, Job goes on in verse 18 and writes, Ramot the kavish lo yizacher umeshe chokmah mipeninim. That is verse 18. corals is the way I would render ra'ot, corals and crystal cannot be, shall be made, no mention. There is not, I'm going to render this lo yizaker. There is no mention of corals or crystals if you're going to compare it with wisdom. In other words, you cannot make even a comparison there. And ramot means corals, and gavish means crystal. So it is interesting. Gavish, this is a statement from the Sonsino commentary. The only occurrence of the word, which is rather interesting, it's the only occurrence of the word, as far as we know, in the Hebrew text, in the Hebrew Bible, in Gavish here. And even the word sagur that we looked at in verse 15 only occurs here. And again, this is on page 143 of Sonsino, the commentary. So what's interesting, some of these words in Job are rare. You don't find them in a many texts. So Gavish is a one it occurs one time, and the other word also only occurs one time. So it's rather interesting to see. It sort of reminds me of trying to read Homer's Iliad, where so many words you don't find them in a lot of Greek. So sagur is another one that is mentioned as well. So again, what he's really saying is that if you try to compare it with corals or crystal, you cannot make even a comparison in trying to find the price of wisdom. And then it reads, Umeshek Chokmah Mipeninim. That is, the measure of wisdom, or the price of wisdom, is beyond rubies, is more than peninim, more than corals or rubies. In other words, you cannot buy it with rubies either. It's interesting. The word corals here is the way I would translate that peninim. It may refer here to something that is transparent. I'm going back to crystal here. No mention is made of corals or crystal, gavish. And then it is above rubies as well, peninim. Coral may refer to transparent crystal, which look like ice or transparent glass, but which is a pure mineral. Coral, crystal, or the price of rubies then, is far outdistanced by wisdom. So its price far exceeds these. Again, it's priceless is really what he's saying. And then in verse 19, it reads, Lo ya arkena pit dat hush. The topaz of Ethiopia shall not be compared to it or equal it. Bechetem ta'or lo tesule. That is, neither can the gold, pure gold, neither with pure gold can it be weighed or valued. So as we look at verse 19, what he's saying is even the topaz of Ethiopia cannot compare with wisdom, and with gold, pure gold, it cannot even be weighed. Uh, so again, he's continuing to reiterate the value of wisdom and the difficulty of finding it. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal wisdom. It cannot be measured or valued even with the purest of gold, seems to be the thought throughout here. And tesule is from salah, to weigh. It is a PL imperfect third feminine singular from salah. So as we summarize this whole section, basically you cannot find wisdom in gold or silver or money. And I would say an application is that we so much value gold and money, and people that make a lot of money are lifted up. But the bottom line is wisdom is the most important thing, and you're not able to find it in that at all. And so the very thing that one is trying to elevate, the writer of Job says, you know, wisdom cannot be discovered in all of that. And so no matter how much one makes or how much one is worth, one cannot still understand the governing of the universe, which God alone knows and has control of and does, totally beyond our understanding, I think is what this chapter is saying. So I'm going to stop there. We'll be picking it up with only God knows the place of wisdom. So in the next section, which I'll be picking up, while wisdom is hidden from the eyes of all living, and even Sheol, the underworld, doesn't know it, God alone knows its place. It was with God from before all creation, we will see. And again, as a Christian minister, I think John 1, again, is a wonderful New Testament parallel to defining wisdom that was with the Father from all eternity applied to Jesus Christ, the God-man. I also think that Colossians chapter 1 and 1 Corinthians 2 talk about the treasures of wisdom found in Christ. So I'm going to stop there, and we'll pick it up next time, continuing to do an inductive grammatical analysis to the best that we can do, working our way through this wonderful chapter. And certainly, as I read this and as I compare it with other classic works like Homer and so forth, it's just wonderful. The Hebrew and the way it's written and the thought of trying to find wisdom. Let me stop here and we'll continue on the next video.